I'm the Deputy Chairman of the State of Illinois, back in the hands of the people. Everybody in the state of Illinois is going to have to be involved or even around the revolution because we learn through making mistakes. We got to start getting out there with the people. And a lot of times we think we're better than the people. That's an insult and that's criminal. Think you're better than the people. But we got to get together and learn where it's at. It's going to take a lot of hard work. But for children, it's something else. You ought to dig on it. Every sister in this audience. Every sister in this audience ought to get themselves together and come on down and help us with that Breakfast for Children program. You ought to come down and help feed them children in the morning. We have Breakfast for Children because we teach the people through practice, through observation and participation, that people can be fed free. That's the people thing. Socialism is the people. You're afraid of yourself. If you're afraid of socialism, you're afraid of yourself. We know they have our pictures. We know they're looking for us. We know they want us. But we're still saying that even though we could be in a sense, as far as this system goes, on the mountaintop, we in the Black Panther Party, because of our dedication and understanding what's in the valley, knowing that the people in the valley, knowing that we originally came from the valley, knowing that our flag is the same flag as the people in the valley, knowing that our enemy is on the mountaintop, our friends are in the valley, we say even though it's nice to be on the mountaintop, we're going back to the valley. I be in offices every day. I be in the streets propagandizing every day. I be working with everybody every day. I be teaching that solidarity is the thing. The end of a complete wipeout of imperialism is the thing. So if you're going to be thinking about me, that's what Bobby would be teaching. If you're going to be thinking about us, all we say is ain't no thing about going nowhere, getting killed. All we want to know is that you're doing what we'd be doing if we were here. And you got to do that. You can't do it unless you believe that you can do it. In the spirit of liberation, we understand that they want everybody in the party in jail. And we know that if we try to figure out and separate and divide who should go and who shouldn't go, we spend more time doing that than working for the people. So the quick solution, the speedy one, nobody goes. Nobody goes. We all stay right here. With the people. Because we love the people. Okay, you can put your hands down now. We say all power to all people. We say white power to white people. Brown power to brown people. Yellow power to yellow people. Black power to black people. X power to those that we left out. We say Panther power to the Vanguard Party. When you leave here saying the last word, before you go to bed tonight, say I am a revolutionary. Make that the last word. In case you don't wake up, then somebody might believe it and you might, end up in what they call a revolutionary happy hunting ground. Say that. I am a revolutionary. Say it when you're going out. Everybody want to leave. Okay, we're going to say it while we're going out. And we're going to start a thing called Free Fred. Don't that sound nice? Hey, let's do that. Free Fred. Free Fred. Free Fred. Free Fred. Hey, I ain't even in jail yet.
I mix what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like. Hey, what's up, world? Welcome to another edition of I Mix What I Like right here, BPM. I'm Jared Ball, very happy to be your host. Thanks to those who are joining me here live, to the remixers and those who will see this here later. Peace and welcome to you as well. Just wanted to, on some level, commemorate that this is the day that we're doing this. December 4th is of course, the morning Fred Hampton was assassinated, along with Mark Clark. By Chicago police and the FBI, counterintelligence program, and all those forces that would prefer that we end up with the environment we have now, where what I'm going to talk about today is acceptable and taken as the norm, and so that we're not in spaces like those depicted there, and we're not advocating for that which is being depicted there, and so on. So, anyway. So rest in power to Fred Hampton and Mark Clark, and please go back and see the several interviews I did with Mark Clark's family and hear more about his story that we don't get, and of course all of the discussion about the Judas and the Black Messiah film, Fred Jr., etc., and so forth. Yes, indeed. So, all right. That said. Yeah, and as someone already who pointed that out already. So my half a bar on Deion is that I told you, and I told you. You know, quietly, as bad as 2022 has been for most of the world, for me selfishly, it has just been a year-long I told you so tour between the crypto and the NFT stuff. Certainly Deion, of course, he wasn't going to be able to revolutionize, even if that had been his intent, the HBCU athletic space. And of course, he was going to parlay that into what he got now, which is a gig at Colorado. Is it Colorado State or the University of Colorado? Either way, it's a much bigger payday. And I don't know if any of you saw the clip I saw of him in the locker room telling, and he said, we've completed our mission here at Jackson, and I'm gonna stick with you through the end of the year, and then I'm moving on. And then he had, he had a little phrase for that too. Something about, I don't know, some preacher style phrase to explain how, of course, he was, after all of that, black unity and black university and black this and black business and the black entrepreneurialism, this is what it is. That's the point. You parlay that into a payday from white capital. And so, of course, he's going to a PWI. And why wouldn't he? He's done a great job coaching. And so what has happened to him is exactly what happens to all the best players. And they say the same thing that I was saying he was saying. There's no infrastructure here for me to grow, both in terms of quality of play, quality of team, quality of existence. By the way, I don't know if anybody, the only time I've ever seen a full Piers Morgan interview is the one he did recently with Cristiano Ronaldo, and which I did watch. Again, these long flights were, and what did Ronaldo say about Man United, one of the biggest franchises in the world? He said, from the time I left in the early 2000s to the time I came back, they've made no improvement. They've made no investment. The infrastructure is a mess. The gym is a mess. The pool is a mess. The nutrition is a mess. They're stuck in a time warp where all these other teams, and he's talking about the biggest team if not the biggest, among the biggest franchises of all sports in the world, bar none. And his point is the owners haven't invested. Well, the same thing is happening in the black sports world and the black community, period, except the difference is there's actually no money. Whereas the Glazers who own Man United and the revenue they generate actually does exist. There is no money to invest in black sports. Where would it come from? And why would it exist? If you understand the political economy of sports, and then the and how that fits in with the white, and again, you got to go back and watch Made in America, because they brilliantly outline that there is a business, of course, but that libidinal economy plays a factor in this. Rich white folks want a place to go to watch people that they own perform for them and do things that they cannot do. So it's not just it's not just the money, it's the prestige, it's the power. So you can't get that at an HBCU. That's what I was saying to Brother Dhoruba and Hiram. You know, Morgan State has a 10,000 seat stadium. Who's going to build to expand that, and who's going to fill that before advertisers are going to want to, you know, why would they do that? Wherever Deion went, they're going to have 100,000 people in the stand. Well, you know, probably, I don't know, 70, 80,000 in the stands, and many millions more than that watching, with boosters and white capital and investment. He's probably already walked into an office and a gym that is millions of miles ahead of anything that exists at an HBCU. And who's going to make the sacrifice? Is he going to say, no, I'm going to turn down that money? Is he going to hold up that offer and say, this is the money I'm walking away from so I can stay here and help blah, 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 blah? No. That's why he gave his little locker room speech and said, I'm out. I mean, it was as predictable as possible. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know about that. I don't know. Certainly don't know enough about that. So, but more helpful than this is send links, send stories, send articles to Black Power Media Gmail. You know, but anyway, so yeah, and I did text Hiram and Dhoruba, and I told him, I told you so. Like, I did do that. like, you know, I like, don't let me not deny that. Like, I absolutely claim that. I absolutely did. But I've admitted, if you watch Wag the Dog, I am Dustin Hoffman. I'll background the whole thing, but I want the credit to the point of a fault where I'm gonna get walked off and assassinated, because I want the credit. So yeah, I told him. I did. I texted him. I texted both of them in a little group text and said, I told you. Look, Dhoruba's been right about so much. I've based so much of my worldview on Dhoruba that this one little thing, I'm gonna run with it. I'm gonna, you know, pun intended, I'm gonna run with it. So anyway, rest in power to Fred Hampton. I was right about Deion, and in the exact converse of all of that, as I bring up at the beginning of the Buying Power book, and I'm working on and I was updating the new preface and updating this discussion of the juxtaposition of Fred Hampton being assassinated on this day, and Mark Clark and Jay-Z being born, and so when Jay-Z says that he is the Fred Hampton and Jeff Fort of today's world, and that he is Che Guevara with bling on, and that he, you know, that he means to say, I am walking you in a specific direction politically and analytically. And that's where we end up today. And shout out to Dr. Haight, who sent me this story initially. It is, and so what we'll start with is what I'm saying is the dramatization of the myth of black buying power and of black capitalism. Let me just let my browser catch up here, you know, unbelievably. It's in part because these sites run so much stuff on them. All right, let me just open one at a time. I'll just have to do one at a time. They run so many ads on these sites that my poor little computer, even with all of the bells and the whistles, is just struggling So let's just wait. And as I patiently wait for the upgrades that are coming. So, How to Get Away with Murder writer pens new Prime Video Black Beauty drama Riches. Okay. So from Amazon Prime, we're getting a very Pan-African, based in London is this story, but the geography and the casting is very Pan-African. Oh, and Big Teal, we're past this is a problem. Like these are not solutions, by the way. Yeah, University of Colorado. Yeah, wow. So it's yeah, so from Amazon Prime, which I will not be able to watch because if folks remember when we had Chris Smalls on, in solidarity with him, I canceled my Amazon Prime live on air. So I won't be watching this unless anyway. Okay, wait a minute. Exactly. So I'm with you in general on this, Ricky. So maybe we can work out some sort of routine update from you on what happens in this joint. But again, it's a very Pan-African cast that is set in London, but in terms of the story, but it's a very black buying power dramatization. It is an actual dramatization of the stuff we've been talking about and I've been critical of from Nielsen and the Selig Center, and now increasingly McKinsey and Company, which I'm going to come back to in just a moment. But as this story starts off with, and this is how Complex Magazine is introducing us to this series, which I thought was perfect in terms, and I'm sure this is why Dr. Haight sent me the story. Research from McKinsey and Company says that black-owned brands in the beauty sector raise a median amount of $13 million in revenue. This compared to the $20 million that non-black brands raise. According to that same research, the revenue of those black-owned brands is 89 times higher than non-black beauty brands. How to Get Away with Murder writer Abby Ajayi, and somebody can tell me if I'm mispronouncing that, is bringing to Prime Video Riches, her new drama about family and the beauty and hair wealth gap. So the article is actually saying that the series is about the beauty and hair wealth gap. All right. So black-owned brands in the beauty sector raise a median amount of $13 million in revenue. This is compared to $20 million that non-black brands raise. Okay. So black-owned brands raise less than non-black-owned brands. As they continue, by 2024, the buying power of the U.S. black population is set to reach $1.8 trillion, according to Nielsen. So this is why, again, I'm saying they're taking a very black American buying power mythological starting point and extrapolating that using McKinsey and Company research into something that is, at least according to this story, driving the content, if not the whole point of this show. The Prime Video 6-episode season kicks off when patriarch and founder of a major beauty hair brand drops dead. Blah, 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 blah. This is, consumption statistics according to Nielsen. And we've gone over all this Nielsen stuff. This is why I'm going to skip over some of that. We've gone over the McKinsey report that they referenced there as well, but I'll come back to a little bit of that, and it's definitely going to be included in the second edition of the Buying Power book because McKinsey is slick with it. In a study conducted by Nielsen, 38% of black women say they will pay more for hair care products from black-owned brands. To date, black brands make up 2.5% of revenue in the beauty industry. Despite this number, blacks account for 11.1% of the total beauty spending. again, black brands can't be more than 2.5% because they target a black community that is itself only 11% of the overall total revenue. So that is not enough to drive the expansion that would lead to the comparisons people often want to make between black and non-black owned businesses. So I just wanted to start there with that one. With that basic introductory story, and the point that I'm making again is that this show is meant intentionally, unintentionally, just maybe unconsciously, ideologically, it's meant to appease the existing media environment, and especially this specific need to propagandize black communities around the world with this idea that the solutions to your problems are always found in some sort of capital, business, entrepreneurial investment plan, scheme, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So this other story speaks to both my own selfish concern in terms of a media consumer that Ricky's comment sort of spoke to a moment ago. By the way, Ricky and Devin Springer will be on the show with me tomorrow morning, so definitely be back with us then as well. Which is also kind of why I wanted to just quickly squeeze this one in between World Cup games and Mbappe, best player in the world already, if y'all didn't see the game this morning. I mean, good God, Jesus Christ. That African team that plays for France with Mbappe leading the way is nasty. Good God, he was a beast again today. He's already the best player in the world at this point. It's just a matter of does he reach best of all time? We'll see, but anyway. So But this speaks to the problem that I read of my own in Ricky's comment that in terms of the kind of media that entices me. When I saw this article, Riches imagines a succession scenario where big business is good. So first, in the unhighlighted portion is my problem personally. Shows like Succession, which generally focus on white business families and drama, are really that's my media cocaine, or my media drug of choice. There are no black people involved, so all you might get are the racist references we expect occur anyway, and then the focus is always on white pathology and white crime and white drama and rich white folks. So it allows for the full escape into the insanity of my complete class and race enemy. So same thing, like I feel like when I watch Game of Thrones or those kinds of shows, which is not as often, but Succession, when they're based in more or less reality, and I hear you, Ricky. I know you like when black people are involved, but I'm very Vernon philosophy on this. Like I'm very happy when there are no black people involved. Like very happy to not see what happens when they start dragging black people involved. But yeah, anyway. But that's my But the highlighted portion, and I'm just. Helping either. Wow. Yeah, I might be a little glitchy today, but as long as you can hear me, right? I think the audio is fine. So I think we're good. But anyway, as this story highlights a little bit, it's not exactly a spoiler to say that by minute 11 of the opening episode of Riches, there's a power struggle. The new Prime Video drama centers on the fortunes of Flair and Glory, a UK-based cosmetic company that prides itself on being one of the beauty industry's premier businesses, black owned or otherwise. The center of the Venn diagram between riches and succession has things that aren't necessarily proprietary to the latter. It's hard to build drama around fictional large company without at least one financial scandal or one climactic boardroom vote or intra-family disputes over branding, strategy, general attitude. So anyway, as it says here, but it's a near impossibility to talk about riches without addressing the similarities its premise shares with one of TV's heaviest hitters. So it's like it suggests that they're following a formula that was successful with Succession and making the characters black. But in terms of what I'm focused on, it's the way this fits into the specific needs of targeting black audiences in the United States or globally. Again, as The Guardian reminds us in their discussion of the surveillance and disruption of Kwame Ture in the fear of Pan-Africanism and socialism being spread to the African diaspora. So a new show that's based on McKinsey, Nielsen, Selig Center, and I'm going to come back to that in just a moment, style stuff, but that is dramatizing it is like a new, it's like an enhancement, a sophistication, an increasing of the sophistication of the approach. So as it says here, the longer the season goes on, Riches does embrace its capital D drama side. There are juicy forbidden romances, stacks of papers shoved off tables, and various violations of professional ethics. There's an overarching main mystery introduced a third of the way into the season, even if its arrival or its culprit isn't exactly surprising. All of that feels like making up for the default cynicism towards big business that Riches lacks. All of that feels like making up for the default cynicism towards big business that Riches lacks. The victories here in product launches, thwarting takeovers, changing cultural perceptions of beauty are presented as legitimate ones with worth beyond that of the Richards family. So in other words, it's saying that in addition to following the formula of more popular white-based dramas like Succession, this one adds the spin of actually taking away the cynicism that is often afforded in those type of shows to big business. And I thought this was a very powerful line in this article that does speak again specifically to my own interests, that at the end of the day, and I don't know how pervasive this is in shows, in black shows that look to mimic other, dramas and the like and whatever, or if there are even any that I'm not thinking of, but that they would point this out, I think is very telling, that when it comes to a black business family, the cynicism of business is taken away. And it's what it leaves us with, and I'm adding this part in, is this idea that business and entrepreneurialism is a good thing. And it is a viable solution to the problems of black communities, no matter where they find themselves. And I thought that was a very slick line to the, and whether they meant it this way or not, admission. Anyway, so that the first story literally starts its whole story off by making reference to the McKinsey and Company analysis about buying power and specifically black consumption of beauty products and the discrepancy there is important, I think, for a number of different reasons. First of all, is that McKinsey is not suggesting this discrepancy when they're talking about a discrepancy in black-owned business products in the beauty world and what they generate versus non-black-owned businesses. They're not saying this as a point of explanation of black inequality and how to solve it, other than to say it can be helped. Black inequality can be helped. The gap can be reduced if more investment in black businesses occur, and if more advertising revenue targets that black consumer base. That's what McKinsey is saying. So, to make that point, let me show, because I've been reading, albeit slowly, this new book that's getting some discussion in other media circles. When McKinsey Comes to Town, The Hidden Influence, the world's most powerful consulting firm. And as I've mentioned here on a number of occasions, the reason that they came to my attention is because more, as I continue to get Google alerts and references to buying power, more and more of the sources are moving from Selig and Nielsen to McKinsey. And I'll probably come back to this. I'll certainly come back to it in the second edition of the book, is that the methodology that they use is basically no different than Selig's. It's just less convoluted, equally inaccurate in terms of how buying power is understood popularly. It's equally inaccurate, equally useless in terms of understanding the political economy, the economic condition of black people or anybody else. But it's less convoluted than the Selig version that reaches the same conclusions with basically the same empty method. But McKinsey, little did I know, at least last year, is a much bigger operation that has been producing as a consulting firm for more than 100 years, very anti-labor, anti-human, anti-black, anti-worker, anti-world, anti-environment analysis, and well-paid advice to the biggest companies for a long time. So when they start coming up with, as they do their, where did I put that? Because they now have a black division. It's so funny. Nope, that's not it. No, that's not it either. All right, so let me just start with what I have here from the book, just a little bit. I'll come back to that in a second. Basically, for decades, McKinsey sold clients on its reputation as a firm that delivered scientific solutions to complex problems. Blue chip companies and governments around the world hired its consultants, as did the CIA, the FBI, the Pentagon, among others, believing McKinsey had the wisdom and wherewithal that their managers lacked. And McKinsey, as we'll come back to and talk again, but have before, they've been involved with everything from the opioid crisis to all throughout the healthcare industry, to again intelligence, to manufacturing. All encouraging in terms of their layoffs and their advice, a brutal system of industrial slavery. Because for a long time they've been advocating tremendous work weeks, firings, all kinds of stuff. And if anybody has seen the recent series Ozarks, I think it's interesting that it's noted that the founder comes from the Ozarks, and now it makes perfect sense. Now it even makes more sense. I had no idea the Ozarks were that gangster. Now it makes perfect sense. Let me let's see. Oh, so this, I mean, this just talks a little bit. I mean, so a lot of what the book ends up talking about is the revolving door between McKinsey and its employees and government and big business and the intelligence community. So, you know, it's the same thing where these very high paid employees who go in and they're apparently very talented, the brightest of the bright, the most well-educated, so on and so on in terms of finance and business. They go in, they bust open your books and they fix everything, tell you who to fire and you know, what policies to circumvent and so on and so forth, which ultimately comes to one of my biggest points is, as they even highlight in the title of a chapter here, while they're telling us to start a small business and get your entrepreneurialism right and your financial literacy together. Where is they're playing both sides. And what this chapter just talks a little bit about is, talks about is how McKinsey will do pro bono work for governments for later consideration on policy influence that will and regulation in certain areas of the economy that will bring their clients millions and millions of dollars. So they end up they're charging hundreds of millions and even billions of dollars in fees to bring clients all kinds of stuff, and then they do it by massaging and manipulating politicians to get regulation and policy that they want that's good for them. And then meanwhile, the trickle down messaging to black people is start a business, get your money right. Don't worry about politics. Policy is useless. You got to have money, before you can do anything, blah, 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 blah. But we're never going to catch up to McKinsey money. We're never going to catch up to. So the only real answer to that is mass movements, political organizations, so on and so forth. Anyway, and anyway, that's really all I mean, you know, the book talks about how McKinsey ends up running banks that they are hired initially to advise. It's, as it says here, they end up running them. In 2007, McKinsey veterans occupied top positions in Lehman Brothers, Morgan Stanley, and UBS. So they advise these banks, and then the people that do the advising take jobs with those banks. And it's just like all these other areas of the economy. Now, I get it. It's so much easier if we just reduce all of this to the Jews and walk away. But it's just a little more complicated, nuanced, and more diverse in that ruling elite than simply this vague, the Jews and stuff like that. But if you are, offering the advice and then writing the policy and getting the regulations for these industries, the particular ownership is almost irrelevant. It's like this. It's just one big incestuous. They talk a little bit in the book about the interlocking boards of directors, the big issue I've been talking about for a long time. I know it's so much that the actual face of ownership, or even the CEO, of course, is much less relevant than all of these other sort of intersections of power and influence and manipulation and so on and so forth. Now, I did want to show a couple of things here because the initial article made two references, one to Nielsen in terms of buying power and one to McKinsey in terms of where people are spending their, the consumer power of black people in the beauty, the beauty industry. I do this all the time. I put stuff, and now I put stuff. This is just terrible. Where did I put that article? Now I put So, well, I'll at least start here with the Nielsen one, and then I'll come back to the McKinsey. So the Nielsen one, Let me turn on the highlights here. So the Nielsen story, that initial complex story reference, which is linked in the show description. That one I know is linked already. Man. Both of those stories are in there already. The complex story and the IndieWire story are in the show description already. Good. But this is the story here. Attracting Black beauty consumers in 2022 from Nielsen. Where they just come out and say here, by 2024, the buying power of the U.S. black population is set to reach $1.8 trillion. And I said, great, they left a footnote. And what do you find when you scroll down to the footnote? Nielsen Consumer LLC. No link, no date, no study, no nothing. So where are you getting that from? Because now people are citing this study, like Complex Magazine, and you're not saying anything. So when you go to their website, there's no particular study. I don't know where they're exactly getting their number this time. But I'll come back to that as well. The black population in the U.S. is expected to grow by 21% between 2022 and 2045, while the non-Hispanic white population is likely to decrease by 18%, positioning black shoppers as an ever-growing consumer group, which demands increased focus. All right. So this powerful group is powerful in its ability to enrich the people who are advertising to them. The annual value of total beauty plus skin sales for black consumers stood at $7.42 billion at the end of April, according to Nielsen IQ OmniShopper. All right. So this is what they're saying black people are spending on hair care products. And that's the money that they're targeting. So the power that they're saying black people have is to spend this much on products that mostly white businesses or non-black businesses own, I should say. They're not necessarily white. A compelling 72% of respondents agreed or strongly agreed there is a gap in beauty offerings for the black consumer. Black-owned or black-founded brands are filling gaps that larger corporations have not met. Notably, 38% of black women say they will pay more for hair care products from black-owned brands. And that's great because, as we just saw, only 2% of that total industry is run by black-owned brands. So great, you're willing to spend more, but that's the point. You black women, that is black people in general, being willing to spend more on black-owned products is great, but there isn't enough money coming from those black shoppers to help those black companies expand any more than they are right now to satisfy more of the black shopping or consumer base. So it's just a dead end. So what these Nielsen and other studies are saying is non-black folks get in here and get the rest of this money because they can't satisfy it. And then it's like, look at these. I mean, this is the methodology we're using here. And by the way, my problem isn't that this is the methodology per se that's being used to determine what black consumers are doing when they go shopping. The problem I have is that this is the methodology that gets transferred through bad reporting and bad punditry to black audiences as comprising an economic strength that does not exist. Which of the following facial skin conditions are you concerned with? Which of the following ingredients do you look for when you're purchasing? Do you agree with the following statements? I think there is a gap in beauty product offerings for black consumers. So it's not like they're even doing the research to show that there's a gap beyond what this handful of consumers tells them they think there is. So this is not, and then again, for the buying power claim, this is the source. This is the reference. All right. Let me just dig out this McKinsey, because I wanted to show, because again, and I did this before. They're using the same story that I've already covered. So I don't if I can't for some reason, I need to find it because I need to cite it in the book. But so it's got to be here. McKinsey. This must be it, right? Yeah, this is it. So McKinsey has a new, and I forgot exactly what they're calling it, but it's a black. It's basically their black consumers group. This guy, Shelley Stewart, is the head of the new McKinsey black or whatever, new to me at least, black. And all it really is the handful of people they have who are targeted in producing this kind of quote unquote work or journalism. But again, it's very honest. To attract black consumers, brands must demonstrate quality, social mission, and good value. So again, they're explaining from the beginning, their point here is not to help black people understand their role in the economy or their economic condition. They're here to help advertisers reach them. So, but this is why I wanted to pull this one up here. Oh no, this isn't the one with the reference, because they have it here. Black consumers' collective economic power is set to expand dramatically from. Wait a minute, it must be in here then, because they're referencing. Yeah, it must be this must be the one then. Right, here it is. Here it is. They're referencing the same line. Even they're saying the same line. Am I showing this one now? I don't think I'm showing the right one. Yes, I am. Okay. Despite the unevenly distributed human and economic devastation of the COVID-19 pandemic, black consumers' collective economic power is set to expand dramatically from about $910 billion in consumption in 2019 to $1.7 trillion in nominal dollars, equal to the projected GDP of Mexico in 2030. Again, I'm not going to do that right now. I don't want to take the time to go through why the GDP thing is, again, a complete ridiculous non-starter, other than to just quickly remind that GDP does not measure inequality within an economy. It is a measurement of the wealth created for the owners of the economy. So these comparisons are useless and hostile to an understanding of the condition of black people within an economy. But here's the citation here that is why I wanted to bring this up, because as I've gone over here again before, I've even gone over this story here, this initial report. The latest calculation uses data from the 2019 U.S. Census and 2019 Consumer Expenditure Surveys from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, BLS.gov, and includes the full population of Black America, which the $835 billion figure does not. So they're saying the reason that they can say that it's going to be $1.7 trillion is because they're using the full black population broken down into households for units of analysis, but using BLS labor statistics. Okay, so they're regurgitating their own self-referenced and bad methodology. Now, again, the method is fine if you're doing what you're doing here, which is trying to get big, vague numbers about what black consumers are spending so that you can target your advertising and tell advertisers how to spend. Because, again, McKinsey is taking in hundreds of millions of dollars to tell major white and other corporations how to target their ad revenue to get this black money. They're not trying to explain to black people what the actual condition of black people is in the economy. So when they reference, as McKinsey even does, other people's studies to say, hey, black income is 24,000 and white household income is 80,000 and black wealth is 0 and white wealth is going up and all the whatever they're doing, they're citing more honest and accurate work. But then they come right back and say there is this buying or consuming or purchasing or spending power that black people have. Then that gets taken as a headline into the black press. because they want ultimately the same thing, to get that ad revenue redirected to them by making a claim that that ad revenue will be satisfied with all this money coming from the black community. Then they tell black people, you need financial literacy and don't have it. As McKinsey talks about, financial literacy is important, and starting a business, investing and saving, and that's where all their advice is centered around. Meanwhile, they're making public policy deals, getting regulations set for their corporate bosses or sponsors to bring in, again, billions of dollars to pay themselves tens of millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars. And then again, the trickle down result is black people being told you could start a business and black capitalism is going to help you. And the discrepancy, even within the context of a beauty supply or a beauty business community, all of those discrepancies can be satisfied by a drama, by black ownership, by black women. So that's why I started off by saying that this whole show reads to me, this whole show riches, without seeing a second of it, and I doubtfully will in this case, just to stay true to my one, little bit of contribution to the Amazon strike, but the whole show is a McKinsey, Selig Center, Nielsen dramatization of their solution, of their analysis to a problem, their explanation, and then their solution. So it's going to be slick, and it's going to make my humble little bit of work that much more difficult. Again, just to make it selfishly all about me and my struggles. But that's how I feel. That's all, So, the show Riches becomes a commercial for the commercial. It promotes the literal black economic business advice of McKinsey and Company. That is black business, beauty, investment in the beauty industry, and so on. And for the broader black capitalist solutions to Pan-African problems. Again, after recently admitting their problems with Pan-Africanism and socialism in The Guardian, this is what we get from a UK-based African diaspora show that bases its analysis, argument, and propagated context, or the context of their propaganda, from Black America. It's perfect. It seems perfect. Woo. And that, Emma, is ultimately the point I keep trying to make too. Even in a white supremacist capitalist society, white people are still struggling out here. So, but what these black capitalists are really saying, as the brothers from the gentlemen of crypto admitted in our debate at the end, they're not really caring about everybody. They don't even care about the environment. They're just trying to get paid. So if they need to brand that and market that as Black Revolution and collective and this, that, and the third, so be it. They don't care, because they don't really care about, they don't have a class consciousness or even an appropriate national consciousness. Their nationalism doesn't even, so. All right, good people. I'm about to go root for Senegal and hope that they can upset the three lions. Imagine that. Imagine England claiming three lions. Anyway, so and then get back on this research for the second edition. So thanks again to Dr. Haight for sending me that story. Thanks to all of you for checking this out. Definitely, if I missed something or if you got something to say, be respectful, but definitely
put it in the comments.
And let me know if you think
it's wrong, bro.
And bring your facts, because I've shown how the works. Anyway, I hope you got the
message.
And I'll see you next time here at I Mix What I Like. In fact, tomorrow morning with Ricky and Devin. So see you then right here at I Mix What I Like BPM. And maybe I'll make it to Sundays tonight with the Ear Doctor. So let's see. And hopefully you all will be there, whether I'm there or not. Peace. Peace, everybody, especially if, like Fred Hampton was often saying, and why they assassinated him on this day in 1969 with Mark Clark. Peace if you're willing to fight for it, everybody. I mix what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like.